I want to tell you about the dumbest financial decision I almost made. I was 24. I'd just landed my first real job, making decent money for the first time in my life, and I decided I deserved a new car. Not a fancy car, just something that wasn't held together by duct tape and prayers, like the 2007 Corolla I'd been driving since college. So I walked into a Toyota dealership on a Saturday afternoon just to look around. You already know how that story goes. The salesperson sat me down, pulled up a sheet, pointed to a number and said, "Only $389 a month. Brand new RAV4. Full warranty. Drive it home today." And I remember sitting there thinking, that's actually not bad. My rent is $1,200. My phone bill is $80. What's $389? That's nothing. I can do that. I had my hand on the pen. And then something made me stop. I don't know if it was instinct or paranoia, but I looked at that sheet and thought, wait, what am I actually paying for here? What does this cost me in like 5 years? I couldn't answer that question, and that scared me enough to walk out without signing. I went home, sat at my kitchen table with a calculator and a notepad, and ran the numbers. What I found completely changed how I think about cars, and honestly, how I think about money in general. Because here's the thing, that $389 a month, it wasn't a deal. It was a trap, a very well-designed, totally legal trap that millions of Americans walk into every single year. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what I found, the real math behind leasing versus buying a car, the hidden costs they never put in the commercial, and the framework I personally use to make this decision. By the end of this video, you'll know which option actually makes sense for your situation, and you'll never look at a monthly payment the same way again. Let's get into it. So let me start with the thing that almost got me, the monthly payment illusion. When I was sitting in that dealership, my brain was doing one calculation. Can I afford $389 a month? Yes. Done. Sign. And that's exactly how dealers want you to think, because the monthly payment is the least useful number when you're trying to figure out if a deal is good. It tells you almost nothing about what you're actually paying, what you actually own, and what your financial picture looks like in 3, 5, or 10 years. Let me break down what's actually happening in each scenario. When you buy a car, here's what nobody says out loud. Buying is the only option where the payments eventually stop. You build equity. You own something real. And the day you make that last payment, that cash flow opens up forever. Drive it free for years, sell it, trade it, use the equity toward your next car. It's yours. I bought my first real car, a used 2018 Honda Accord, instead of leasing that RAV4. That single decision saved me more money by age 32 than most people put into their 401k in a full year. I'll show you the exact number later. When you lease a car, you are renting it. That's it. That's the whole thing. The leasing company owns the car. What you're paying every month is the depreciation, the value the car loses while you're driving it, plus a finance charge, plus fees, plus taxes. At the end of the lease, you hand the keys back and you own exactly nothing. Zero. No trade-in value, no equity, nothing. Now, and I want to be clear about this, that's not automatically a bad thing. We'll get to when leasing actually makes sense. But most people signing leases aren't doing it for smart strategic reasons. They're doing it because $389 sounds better than $547, and nobody asked them to think past month one. Here's the sentence I want you to take away from this section. A lower monthly payment is not the same as a lower total cost. And I'm about to prove it with numbers that are going to make you angry. Let's run a real comparison. I'm going to use the 2025 Toyota Camry. MSRP around $35,000, one of the best-selling cars in America. Scenario A, you lease the Camry. Standard 36-month lease, about $1,000 due at signing. Based on current depreciation rates and average money factors for this car, you're looking at monthly payments around $538. Let's add it up. $1,000 at signing, $538 times 36 months equals $19,368. Total cost, 3 years, about $20,368. End of month 36, you hand the car back. No car, no equity. Zero. And here's what almost everyone does at this point. They lease again. Because they've been driving a new car for 3 years, they're used to it, and the dealer is already calling. So you sign lease number 2. Let's say $550 a month now. $1,000 at signing again. 550 times 36 equals $19,800. Total for lease number 2, about $20,800. After 6 years, you've paid roughly $41,000. You owe nothing. And I haven't even counted the fees yet. The disposition fee when you return it, $300 to $500. The wear and tear charges for that one door ding they decided was excessive, $500 to $2,000. The mileage overage if you went a few thousand miles over your limit. These things are real and they add up fast. We'll come back to them. Scenario B. You buy the Camry. Now, here's the part that's going to feel wrong at first. Stick with me. Same car, you put 20% down, $7,000, finance the rest over 60 months at 6.7% APR. Monthly payment, around $547. That's more than the lease, I know, but watch what happens at month 60. $7,000 down, $547 times 60 months is $32,820. Total out of pocket? Roughly $39,820. And at the end of month 60, you own a 5-year-old Toyota Camry, free and clear. What's that car worth? A 2020 Camry in good condition today is worth between $18,000 and $22,000. Let's call it $20,000. So your net cost of ownership over 5 years? $39,820 paid minus $20,000 retained value equals roughly $19,820 net cost. Meanwhile, over the same 5 years, a serial leaser has paid nearly $34,000 and owns nothing. But here's where it really gets interesting. Let me show you the 10-year picture, because this is the number that made me put down that pen. Serial leaser, 10 years, 3 full lease cycles at roughly $20,000 to $21,000 each, equals $60,000 to $63,000 spent. Zero assets. Buyer 10 years. You paid off the Camry at year 5. Years 6 through 10, you're driving essentially payment-free. Maintenance over 5 more years, maybe $2,000 to $4,000. Total 10-year cost, around $42,000 to $44,000. And you still own a car worth $8,000 to $12,000. Net 10-year cost, roughly $30,000 to $36,000, with an asset in the driveway. The gap, $25,000 to $30,000 over 10 years. Okay, I need a second, because when I first saw that number, I genuinely sat at my kitchen table and just stared at it. $25,000 to $30,000. That's a full year of groceries for a family of 4. That's your kid's first 2 years of college. That's a down payment on a house in most parts of this country. When I ran this exact calculation at my kitchen table that night, rough version, not even this detailed, I realized exactly how close I'd come. One signature away from losing $25,000 I didn't even know I was about to lose. And I'll tell you what I actually did with that money instead, but that story's coming in a bit. Actually, real quick, drop a comment right now. Are you currently leasing or buying? Just say lease or buy. I'm genuinely curious what the split looks like in this audience. And if you're leasing, don't worry, keep watching. We'll figure out if it's actually working for you. But the monthly math is only half the story. There's a whole other layer of costs buried in the fine print that never show up in the ad. I know this because I went back to that same dealership 3 weeks after I walked out, this time just to ask questions, and I made the salesperson explain every single line item to me. Some of them visibly did not enjoy that conversation. Hidden cost number 1, the acquisition fee. Before you drive a single mile, Before you even touch the steering wheel, the leasing company already has their hand in your pocket. It's called an acquisition fee. It's a charge just for the privilege of setting up the lease. BMW, $925. Toyota, $650. It's buried in the paperwork, sometimes rolled into your payment so you never even see it as a separate line item. You're paying nearly $1,000 and you haven't moved the car an inch. Hidden cost number 2, the money factor markup. This one's sneaky, and it's the one that really got under my skin when I learned about it. Leases don't use an interest rate. They use something called a money factor, a tiny decimal like 0.0033. To find the effective APR, you multiply by 2,400. So 0.0033 equals a 7.92% effective interest rate. Here's the problem. Dealers are legally allowed to mark up the money factor above what the manufacturer sets, and they don't have to tell you. On a car loan, lenders have to disclose the APR by law. On a lease, no such requirement. The dealer pockets the difference between the base money factor and the marked up version they give you. The fix? Look up the base money factor for your exact car and month on a site like Edmunds or Lease Hacker before you walk in. Know the number. Don't let them inflate it. Hidden cost number 3, mileage penalties. Most leases cap you at 10,000 to 15,000 miles per year. The average American drives about 12,200 miles a year. So if your lease only covers 10,000, which plenty of advertised deals use to get that low monthly number, you're already setting yourself up. Go over your limit? You're paying 15 to 30 cents per mile at lease end. 3,000 miles over at 25 cents a mile? That's a $750 surprise bill on the day you're already stressed about finding a new car. Hidden cost number 4, excess wear and tear. When you return the car, a leasing company inspector goes over every single inch of it. And what counts as normal wear versus excessive wear? That's defined by them. A small scratch on the bumper, a minor scuff on the door, a stain on the rear seat from that one coffee spill. Any of these can turn into a bill. Average end-of-lease wear and tear charges, $500 to $2,000, depending on the car and the inspector's mood that day. I've talked to people who got hit with $1,800 in wear and tear charges on a car they thought they'd taken great care of. That's money you did not budget for, on top of everything else. Hidden cost number 5, the disposition fee. This one makes me genuinely angry every time I think about it. You took care of the car. You made every payment. You showed up on day 1 to return it. And the dealer charges you $300 to $500 just for handing the keys back. They literally call it a disposition fee. It's a breakup fee for not signing another lease with them. You did nothing wrong. You followed every rule, and they still bill you on the way out the door. Hidden cost number 6, early termination, the real trap. This is the one that can genuinely wreck your finances if your life changes unexpectedly. Job loss, cross-country move, new baby, whatever it is, if you need to get out of your lease early, you're in trouble. Early termination fees can run anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000, or in some cases, the full remaining balance of the lease. You cannot simply return the car and stop paying. You are locked in. With a car you own, if you need out, you sell it. You use the proceeds to pay off the loan. Maybe you break even, maybe you come out slightly behind, but you're out, clean. A lease doesn't give you that exit. Add all of these up across a 3-year lease: acquisition fee, money factor markup, mileage overage, wear and tear, disposition fee, and you're easily looking at an extra $2,000 to $5,000 on top of every lease cycle. That $389 a month just got a lot more expensive. And we haven't even talked about the one scenario that can completely blow up your finances. That's coming next. But here's when leasing actually wins. And honestly, this part surprised even me when I first ran the numbers. Yeah, I know, I've been roasting leasing for the last 10 minutes. But I'm going to spend the next 2 minutes genuinely defending it. Because if you're in one of these 4 situations, leasing might actually be the smarter call. Situation 1. You drive a luxury car. Here's the scenario where I'd actually consider leasing myself. Luxury vehicles, BMWs, Mercedes, Audis, even high-end trucks like the King Ranch F-150 or Ram 1500 Limited depreciate at a brutal pace. We're talking 50% to 60% of their value gone in the first 3 years on some models. When you buy a luxury car, you absorb that entire depreciation hit. When you lease it, you're only paying for the depreciation during your lease term, and the leasing company carries the rest of the risk. If you're going to be driving a $70,000 BMW regardless, and you know yourself well enough to know you'll want a new one in 3 years, leasing can actually be the mathematically smarter play. You skip the massive depreciation cliff and hand the problem back to the dealer. In this specific case, I respect it.
Situation 2. You own a business. If you use a vehicle for legitimate business purposes, lease payments are often fully deductible as a business expense. Depending on your tax bracket, that can reduce your effective car cost by 20 to 30%. That's a real significant advantage. But, and this is important, talk to your accountant before you assume this applies to you. The IRS has specific rules about what counts as business use. Don't use this as a reason to lease unless you've actually confirmed the deduction with someone who knows your taxes.
Situation 3. You drive very low mileage a year. Think about this. If you only put 7,000 or 8,000 miles a year on a car, you're essentially paying to depreciate a vehicle you're barely using. That's like paying full price for a gym membership you use twice a month. If you work from home, live in a walkable city, or genuinely just don't drive much, leasing actually fits. You stay under the mileage cap, your payments are low, and you're not building equity in something that mostly sits in a parking spot anyway. Situation 4. You want to try an EV without committing. This one is particularly relevant right now. Electric vehicle technology is evolving so fast that buying an EV today means betting on what the used EV market looks like in 5 years, and that is genuinely uncertain. Battery degradation, charging infrastructure changes, new models with dramatically better range, it's a moving target. Leasing an EV lets you drive the latest tech for 2 to 3 years without being stuck with it when something better and cheaper comes along. With federal EV tax credits now expired, some manufacturers are rolling their own incentives directly into lease deals to keep demand up. Worth looking into if EVs are on your radar.
Okay, so now you know the math, you know the hidden costs, you know when leasing actually makes sense. But here's the thing. Even people who understand all of that still walk out of dealerships having made one of these 5 mistakes. And some of them are mistakes I've either made myself or watched people close to me make. One of them cost a friend of mine over $4,000 on a car he never even got to keep.
Mistake number 1. Negotiating the monthly payment instead of the price. This is the dealership's favorite move, and it works on almost everyone, including 24-year-old Buck, who thought he was being smart. Here's what happens. The salesperson asks what monthly payment you're comfortable with. You say $450, and then they work backward from that number, stretching the loan term, adjusting the down payment, tweaking the money factor until they hit your number. Meanwhile, the actual price of the car could be $3,000 to $5,000 higher than it needed to be. The rule is simple. Negotiate the price of the car first, completely separate from any conversation about monthly payments, financing, or trade-ins. Get the lowest purchase price you can. Then, and only then, figure out the payment structure.
Mistake number 2. Not shopping your financing beforehand. I did this one right, thankfully. Before I went car shopping, I got pre-approved for an auto loan through my credit union. I walked into the dealership knowing I could get 5.9% APR. On a $28,000 car over 60 months, the difference between 5.9% and 8% APR is over $1,700 in total interest. That's money you're just handing over because you didn't spend 20 minutes on your credit union's website. Always get pre-approved somewhere before you go to the dealer. Here's something most people don't know. In America, dealers are legally allowed to mark up your interest rate above what the lender actually approved you for. and pocket the difference. It's called a dealer reserve. If the bank approved you at 5.9% and the dealer quotes you 7.5%, that gap is pure profit for them. Walk in with your own pre-approval, and that game is over before it starts. Mistake number 3, putting a big down payment on a lease. Stop. If you're about to put $3,000 or $4,000 down on a lease, don't. I know it feels smart. Lower monthly payment, less interest, same logic as buying, right? Wrong. On a lease, a big down payment can literally disappear overnight. Here's why. If your leased car gets totaled or stolen in month 3, your insurance pays the leasing company the car's value. You may not get your down payment back. You just lost that money. Leasing experts generally recommend keeping the down payment on a lease as small as possible and instead negotiating a lower cap cost, the vehicle price. Every dollar you negotiate off the purchase price reduces your monthly payment by about $30. That's where the leverage is. Mistake number 4, focusing only on the monthly payment, not the total cost. A lower monthly payment is not a lower total cost. When I almost leased that RAV4, the payment was $389. The loan payment on the used Accord I ended up buying was $430. A different car, cheaper than the Camry example I showed you, but the principle is identical. I was going to make a decision that would have cost me $25,000 more over a decade because $41 a month felt like savings. Run the 5-year and 10-year numbers. Always. Mistake number 5, treating a perpetual lease like a normal expense. This is the quietest and most damaging mistake. When you buy a car, there's an end date. Month 60, the payments stop. That $500 a month in cash flow opens back up. You can invest it, save it, use it to fund literally anything else. When you perpetually lease, you are committing to a car payment for the rest of your life. No payoff date, no freedom. Just renewal after renewal after renewal, forever, with nothing to show for it. Think about that for a second. The person who buys and keeps their car eventually gets to a month where they wake up and that payment just doesn't exist anymore. That's a feeling a serial leaser never gets. And what you do with that freed up cash, that's where the real wealth gets built. I'll show you exactly what that looked like for me in a few minutes. Here are the 5 questions I actually ask myself before making any car decision, and that I'd ask you if you came to me right now saying you were about to sign something. Question 1. How many miles do you drive per year? Be honest about this. Look at your odometer from last year if you have to. If you're driving more than 15,000 miles a year, buying every time. The mileage overages on a lease will eat any savings from the lower monthly payment. If you're under 10,000 miles, leasing becomes more viable. Question 2. How long do you plan to keep the car? Be brutally honest here. Not what you hope, what you actually do. If you've traded in every car within 3 years, own that. The math gets closer when you're genuinely a frequent upgrader. But if you're the kind of person who keeps cars 7 to 10 years, buying wins decisively. The longer you drive a paid-off car, the more value you extract from what you already paid. Question 3. Is this a luxury vehicle or a mainstream one? Here's a number that should shock you. A $70,000 BMW can lose $35,000 to $40,000 in value in its first 3 years. That's not a typo. If you buy it, you absorb every dollar of that drop. If you lease it, you pay for only the depreciation during your term. The leasing company eats the rest. For luxury vehicles specifically, leasing isn't a trap. It's actually the math-smart move. For mainstream cars, Camrys, Civics, F-150s, the depreciation curve is much gentler. Buy those. Question 4. Is this for personal use or business use? Business owners, this question can change everything for you. Lease payments on a business vehicle are often fully deductible. Depending on your bracket, that's 20 to 30% off your effective cost, subsidized by the government. But talk to your accountant before you assume.
The IRS has strict rules about what actually qualifies. Don't use this as a rationalization. Use it as a real calculation. Question 5. How stable is your life right now? This is the question nobody asks, and it matters. Is your job stable? Are you expecting major life changes? A move, a kid, a career shift? If there's meaningful uncertainty in your near future, leasing's early termination fees are a serious financial risk. Buying, especially a used car without a massive loan, gives you flexibility that a lease absolutely does not.
Run these 5 questions honestly. Write the answers down. The right choice for your situation usually becomes obvious pretty fast. And seriously, after you answer these 5 questions, drop your answer in the comments. Lease or buy, and which question actually changed your mind. I read every single one.
When I walked out of that Toyota dealership at 24, I drove home in my beat-up 2007 Corolla, feeling kind of embarrassed. My friends were leasing nice cars, my coworkers were driving new vehicles. I was grinding around in a car that had 140,000 miles on it, and a check engine light I'd been ignoring for 3 months. But I went home, ran the numbers, and bought a 2-year-old certified pre-owned Honda Accord for $22,000. A little above what I wanted to spend, but it had low miles and a clean history. I put $4,000 down, money I'd been saving, financed the rest, and committed to paying it off as fast as I could. I paid that car off in 38 months, not 60, 38, by throwing every extra dollar I had at the loan. Bonuses, side hustle money, tax refunds, all of it. Month 39, 0 car payment. I remember that month. I'm not even joking. I literally checked my bank account on the 1st, expecting the charge, and it wasn't there. And I just sat there for a minute. That feeling, that's what financial decisions are actually for. Not because of what you spend the money on, because of what you don't have to spend it on anymore. That $430 a month opened up. I put $300 of it into my Roth IRA and $130 into a car fund for whenever I'd need my next vehicle. I drove that Accord for 8 years total. By the time I sold it, I'd gotten over 200,000 miles out of it. I'd paid roughly $26,000 all in, including maintenance, and I sold it for $5,500. Net cost of ownership over 8 years, about $20,500. Let that sink in. The average new car purchase in America today costs over $48,000. I drove for 8 years and spent less than half that, including every oil change, every tire rotation, everything. That's the game. That's the real math. Now look, I'm not telling you that you have to drive a 10-year-old car and never have a nice vehicle. That's not the point. The point is, the car is a tool. It gets you from A to B. And tools should be chosen for value, not for the thrill of a low monthly number that a salesperson engineered to close the deal. The best car decision you can make is the one that leaves the most money in your pocket for the things that actually matter to you. Your investments, your freedom, your family, your goals. The car is not the goal. The car is just the car. If leasing genuinely fits your situation, if you're in a luxury vehicle with high depreciation, or you have business deductions, or you truly drive very little, lease intelligently. Negotiate everything. Know the money factor. Know the total cost. Go in with your eyes open. But if you're leasing because $389 sounds better than $547 and you haven't thought past month 1, that's the trap. And now you know how to avoid it. The lease payment isn't savings. It's rent. On a car you'll hand back with nothing to show for it. And if you keep renting forever, you'll spend $25,000 to $30,000 more than the person who just bought the car and kept it. Run the 5 questions. Do the math on the full timeline, not just month 1, and make the decision with your eyes open, not based on what a salesperson engineered to get you to sign. If this helped, hit like, and go watch the used car buying video linked right here. That one will save you money on the actual purchase. I'm Buck. Take care of your money. I'll see you in the next one.